Press, Okay, so I mentioned I'm going to move and take things out of sequence just a little bit. And instead of going project guide, program of study, e-portfolio, I'm going to go e-portfolio, program of study, project guide. So, because I think it would just flow better. So, going back to the school leadership organization in UTC Learn, first of all, I want to show you what I just added during break. And that is under field experience information. For some reason, I had taken out your standards. You need to know your standards. So I've listed them. For those of you in the principal licensure program, you are under last year's version of the Tennessee Instructional Leadership Standards. They made some minor changes last year. You'll see like standard A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Standard B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, C, 1 through 7, D, 1 through 4. Those are the, so when it says standard and indicator, standard D, for example, is on resource management, and standard D has 4 indicators. Standard C is on professional learning and growth. Standard C has 7 indicators. I'm going to just sit down for a second. So those are the Tennessee Instructional Leadership Standards. This is very confusing because if you're a principal person, you go by the TILS or TILS, but if you're a teacher leader, you go by something greatly different, the TLS. So we just take out one letter and expect everyone to understand that. If you are a teacher leader person, you go under the teacher leader standards, which are the TLS. And they're listed a little bit differently than the TILS. You have domains and functions. I believe there are 7 domains and a series of functions. You don't need to worry about when they're introduced or reinforced and assessed, but that's kind of me. I think it goes all the way down to 7. Yikes. Yeah. So, and I apologize why it has that in there, but nonetheless, you can see all the way through 7E. Well, what does that mean? Okay, well, remember I showed you a sample portfolio? And you're going to start one here today. Let me show you one again, and now maybe it'll make more sense given the fact that you understand what I'm talking about. So here is Amanda Leggett's portfolio. Amanda Leggett was a principal licensure candidate. She followed the TILS, the TILS, and here you can see listed under each one, remember I said standard A has 5, standard B 6, standard C 7, standard D 4. On the left-hand side of her portfolio, she will have every one of those indicated. Now, for those of you who are a teacher leader, notice I said there are 7 domains, and it goes through 7E. Here you see Phoebe's. She has each domain and each function within the domain. So for principal licensure, it's TILs and indicators, it's standards and indicators. For teacher leadership, it's domains and functions. All right? Let's go back to Amanda's portfolio. So here I am going to go through the requirements for your electronic portfolio. Okay. The electronic portfolio is your ticket to graduate your program. You will get an incomplete in a course at some point if you don't have your portfolio completed. For most of you in the teacher Leadership, you'll get an incomplete in your capstone class. For those of you in the principal licensure, you'll get an incomplete in your practicum class. Why? Because the final culminating project for that class is your portfolio. You cannot graduate, you cannot complete your program without successfully completing your portfolio. And frankly, your portfolio contains everything in it that you need to finish your program. So look at it this way. You can't finish without your portfolio. That's your ticket out. Now, I'm going to jump out of my, I'm going to do what really shouldn't do, but it's okay because you're all really good students. I want to jump back to the home page here. This might be a good time to point this out. You will notice on the school leadership organization that I have a tab called Program Deadlines. This is a good time to point this out to you. If your portfolio is your ticket out of the program, whenever you plan to graduate, I have to have your portfolio with enough time to score it. So I am going to use a very elaborate rubric, which I'll show you shortly, to score your portfolio. Here are the deadlines that you must know. Our program deadlines, regardless of which program you're in. If you want to graduate in May, I must have the link to your portfolio by April 1. If you want to graduate in August, I must have it by July 1. If you want to graduate in December, I must have it by November 1. Basically, whatever month you want to finish in, I have to have your portfolio by the first of the month before that. Why? That gives me about a month to score your portfolio. And you're like, well, why does it take you a month to score your portfolio? Once you see what a portfolio looks like, you'll get it. And once you realize that I may have as many as 20 portfolios at one time to score, you'll get it again. So that was a program deadline that I want to make sure you understand. And as long as we're on it, a little bit out of sequence here today, but this is important for you to know. The graduate school here at UTC has a deadline for when you apply to graduate. You must apply to graduate. You cannot finish your program unless you apply to do so. It's that simple. You apply two different ways. You fill it out on your MyMox degree online, and you must also fill out a graduate audit for degrees and certification form. I must sign that form and I must turn it in. So right now, all of my students are doing that who want to graduate in May. Why? Because the deadline to apply for May graduation is October 15th. What? That's right. If you want to graduate in May, you have to apply in October. If you want to graduate this summer, you have to apply by March, and if you want to graduate in December, you must apply by June. Please don't miss this deadline. I just had a student who had to pay $50 for missing a deadline, and it's bothersome to me. I can tell they're flustered, but it's right here. I mean, I put it out to you. You know it now. You have to apply to graduate, and you have to follow their deadlines. If you miss the deadline, they have a late deadline, but notice it's a $50 fee. So, anyway. All right. Okay, so I say your portfolio is your ticket out of the program. It must include everything in the template, which you're about to start, and you must include one artifact and one reflection for every indicator. Okay, now stuff just got real in your world. Because I just said you must include one artifact and one reflection for every indicator. For teacher leaders, that's every function. Minimum of one artifact and one reflection for every indicator. So, let's go back and look what this looks like. let's use Amanda Leggett's portfolio. There are 5, 11, 18, 22 indicators for the Tennessee Instructional Leadership Standards. So how many artifacts minimum must you have? 22. Yep. Can you have more than 22? Yes. Can you have less than 22? No. You can have as many artifacts as you want per indicator. Doesn't matter, but you must have one. You must have one reflection per indicator or function. Notice I did not say one reflection per artifact. That's different. If you, under standard A1, if you show me 4 artifacts, I don't want 4 reflections, I want 1 reflection. So let's show you what her portfolio looks like. Under standard A indicator 1, standard A indicator 1 is collaborates with stakeholders to establish, communicate clear, compelling vision for continuous improvement. All right. Here she tells me what she included as her artifact. It's her strategic planning team participation. Here is her reflection. For her artifacts, she included her strategic plan. I'm not sure what that is, but we can see it looks like it's a planning document. She also included her strategic planning template that was filled out, it looked like. So she had a couple artifacts. She did her reflection in the body of her portfolio like so. I don't prefer it like that, to be honest with you, but it's okay. Let me show you the sample portfolio that does it differently. Here's Jessica Hubbock's A1. Here's what I actually want you to have. She lists the standard. She tells me what her artifacts are going to be. Then she lists those artifacts. So this is one of many meeting agendas I drafted as I led the chair of the science department. And this is one of the many meeting agendas for the school leadership team that I served on as a chair of. So here you can see an artifact for an agenda. Here you see her notes for what apparently an agenda and her minutes. And here you see her reflection for that. This is how I want your reflections, by the way. I want it listed with a title page, which standard it is, your name, and then the reflection that follows. All right. Let's talk about the reflection now. Is a good time to do that. Okay. In the portfolio section, portfolio information section on UTC Learn, you see a link that says Portfolio Artifact Reflection Format. Here it is. In a 2 to 3 page reflection, include the following headings and information. Summary, what you did. Summary of the results, what happened. And then finally, your reflection. If given the opportunity to redo this activity, what would you do differently? And how has this impacted your leadership, or what have you learned about leadership as a result of doing what you did? This, I put a 2 to 3 page, typically they're 2, they can be more or less. So let's just randomly pick Jessica's B3. She tells me that she did her school safety audit. Here is her school safety audit that she did for B3. You'll do a similar audit in a summer class. You'll go through and do this audit for school safety. Here is her reflection. Notice again, it has the title page. Here's what I did. Here's the results. I'm sure she lists like what she would do differently if she had to do it. First interaction for students with adults. That's kind of a slacky kind of a reflection, actually. Maybe that's not the best line. Just for kicks and giggles, let's go. Let's pick the same standard for Amanda. Yeah, here you can see what she did. As a result, in the future, I would do this audit during different times of the year to make sure items are in compliance throughout the entire school year, especially given the changing weather, blah, blah, blah. And then she lists my biggest leadership takeaway from conducting the safety audit, blah, blah, blah. So she followed the guidelines a little more clearly maybe than Jessica did. But you can see they had the same thing. She had her safety audit, so did Jessica, listed the audit, and then they followed the reflection. So using this portfolio template, for every single indicator, you will have one minimum artifact and one minimum reflection. Does that make sense? All right. Then you must have something for everything else in the template, which I just showed you. So you're going to have a practicum project. We'll do that in your practicum class. You need to have an action plan, for example. You'll do that in a different class. I showed you her field experience log. Remember I talked about those mentor evaluations? Let's take a look at what those look like in actual practice. So I said there's a checkpoint 1 and a checkpoint 2 mentor evaluation. I think Amanda might not have had to have all of them, but she did have a checkpoint 2. So let's take a look. Here is Amanda's checkpoint 2 evaluation. She lists what she did, listed the standard, listed the dates. Her mentor indicated, scored them. Notice, remember here we wanted to be, this is checkpoint 2, so we wanted to start approaching the beginning thing. Just a minute, let me check. What class is the action plan a part of? The action plan is a part of the capstone class. You'll do an action plan in the capstone class. Yep. So this was Amanda's mentor evaluation 2. Now let's take a look at the final mentor evaluation. Here, and yours is going to look a little different, I'll show it to you, but here you list basically what you did. Here she lists what she did, lists what you did. Her mentor goes through and scores her using this rubric. You must score a 3 or above on every one of these to graduate. And then at the bottom, the mentor's going to sign it and date it, and it gets submitted. Let's go back to the organization and make sure that you understand the mentor evaluations. Okay. Mentor evaluation checkpoint 1 and 2, you can find right here. They are the same evaluations for each checkpoint. You have one at the end of this semester, one at the end of the third semester. You fill in the box here what you did, the corresponding standards, either TILS or TLS, if they were in a course, whatever. Your person will either circle or highlight your score, sign it, and you will submit it. And I showed you the place to upload it earlier in the organization. Checkpoint 1 and 2 are the same form. However, checkpoint 3, the final mentor evaluation, is very different. Let's take a look at the principal one.
Dr. K, just
Yeah.
a super quick question. So for checkpoint 1 and 2, could we just print out our field experience sheet and attach it, or do you want us to actually put that stuff on the evaluation?
Just cut and paste it onto the evaluation.
Okay.
Yep, just cut and paste it. Okay, here is the final mentor evaluation. The final mentor evaluation you submit with your portfolio. It's in your portfolio. I will go over this with you and your mentor during your second year in the program or your final semester, whichever it is. Here is where you must list what you did in a summary of what you did. Your mentor must check off the level to which you did it. I want to show you something. There's a hot link here to the team evaluation rubric, or it should be a hot link. Control click. I don't know what's happening. Open it. I still don't know what's happening. Why that's not working. That's okay, I'll copy the link. And then I will go to this, and then I will paste the link. And then I will go to said link. Okay. Our program uses the team evaluation rubric, although some of you in Hamilton County are probably used to Project Coach. The rest of the state uses the project team. So we use the team evaluation rubric. It's the one put out by the Department of Education. Here you see the rubric by which your mentor is going to score you. Remember, you need to score a 3 or better in every one of those indicators. Here's what it takes to get a 1. Here's what it takes to get a 5. Here's some things that you typically would have. Here are some outcomes. Your mentor is going to go through this rubric to score you on this form. So you'll type in just a summary of what you did. They will score you for everything. They will sign it at the bottom, give it to you. You will submit it in your electronic portfolio. This is the verification that you did the field experience that you said you did. This is the only way we verify that. So when your mentor signs this final mentor evaluation, that is him or her saying, yes, indeed, you did do all that field experience. Does that make sense? Okay. Next. I think I hit that, and I think I hit that. Okay, so it's time to actually start your electronic portfolio. And we're going to take a few minutes to start that. If you go to the School Leadership Organization, and you scroll down to Portfolio Information, you will see directions for creating ePortfolio from template. Here it goes through, this document goes through everything you need to do to create an electronic portfolio. So the first thing it says to do, is to log into your MyMoxNet. So do that. I'll do it with you. I want you to do this right now, if you can. So you're going to log into your MyMoxNet, which you see it at the top of the UTC page, MyMoxNet. Log in now. Indicate to me if you are not ready to move along. Next, drop down the top banner by clicking on Tools and then clicking on Mox Mail. I hope this works. Tools, Mox Mail. Ta-da. Next, click on the apps grid. Ta-da. Right? Next, select the sites icon. From here, I will select the sites icon. Ta-da. Next, choose create. Create. Next, browse the gallery for more. Okay, I'm in the create. I would create in classic sites because the new ones won't have the template. And you click on browse the gallery for more. Okay, ta-da. Next, select either TILS or TLS digital portfolio. If you are a principal licensure person, you select TILS. If you are a teacher leader person, you select TLS. If you are a person starting in teacher leadership but know you're going to finish in principal licensure, do TILS. That way you don't have to redo things. So, I'm on this page. I'm going to scroll down, and from the templates, I see the TLS template. The TILS was there somewhere.
I just have to search it.
Well, that's new.
It pops up if you just search it.
If you search it, okay, I apologize. Apparently, other people in the university, like Craig, have decided to start their own. So if you need to search TLS, okay, if you just hit TLS and search, you'll get the TLS template. And if you hit TILS, you'll get the TILS template. Okay? Select a site template. Okay, I have selected a site template. Click on select. I believe I did that. Yes. Next, name your site and create. Site name should be unique to user. It is. We want it to be first name dot last name, by the way. So, use that template. Name your site. So your name will be first name dot last name. Type it in there and click create, and you should now have your electronic portfolio started. At this point, mine's cooking here as it's trying to save it. When I started at UTC in the fall of 2014, there was no portfolio template. And students got the instruction that said, create your portfolio using an online tool. You could use Weebly, you could use Sites, you could use any online tool you wanted, and there was no guidance at all. And frankly, that's the first thing I changed when I got here. It was like, well, wait a minute, if we know we want everyone to do them the same, why don't we just provide you a template? So here you will find then everything you need to populate. All you need to do is click on edit. You type in a little introduction. Maybe you want to put a picture of yourself or something like that. Here are every one of those indicators that you need to have one artifact and reflection for. And here are all of the other things you need to have in your portfolio. You now have a start, hopefully, You have your portfolio started. You can edit this from now until you send me the link to your portfolio that I graded. Now, I tell you this now, in all sincerity, and no one listens to me, maybe you'll be different. If you keep up on this now, your life is going to be so much better next year. It just is. Last week, I met with the second year students in this very room. We went around and did introductions, and as part of introductions, I said, tell everyone your progress to date on your portfolio. And I kid you not, I had students, they were, some were like, I just need to finish my reflections for indicator D3. Great. Most, however, were, I just revisited it for the first time since last fall. And I was like, no, why? Why do you do this to yourself? You're going to, in your classes, you're going to complete field experience projects. For all of them, almost always, you have a reflection that goes along with it. Why not upload it now as you do it? And then it's done. And then this time next year, you aren't scrambling to make sure you have everything covered. Because I told you, we'll sit down next year and make sure you have one artifact and one reflection for every one of those indicators. It's really hard to do if you're not keeping up on it. But it's really easy to do if you are keeping up on it. Every class of mine that you have, when you have a class of mine and we do field experience, I will always tell you, upload this to your portfolio. Now, whether or not you do that is up to you. But keep in mind, when it comes time for March, if you want to graduate in May of next year, and it's March, and you are missing a lot of things from your portfolio, you will not have me to blame. If you did as I asked you to do, you would be easy peasy, breezing through it. All right, I'll step
Can
off
I
this.
just ask one more question?
Yeah,
If we go to, this is back to field experience, but I forgot it. If we go to a meeting, like a board meeting, and there's no agenda, what would our artifact be?
good question. Dana asked if we go to a meeting and there's no agenda, what would our artifact be? And it's not just things like meetings. There will be a lot of different things that you do where it's difficult to have an artifact. I'm just going to tell you, find something that you can upload as an artifact.
Could it
Now-
be like our handwritten notes that we took?
It might be handwritten notes. It might be an email. It might be a program or something like that. So let's say, for example, I mentioned to you that Lennon and John went to help Elizabeth Renaison at Howard School with her parent night, back to school night or whatever it was. They might just, if there was a memo that went out from Elizabeth to the parents that said, back to school night, whatever, here's our outline for the night, blah, blah, blah. If they just included that as an artifact, that's fine. If they didn't have that, but they emailed Elizabeth and said, hey, Elizabeth, could we help you with your back to school night? And she replied back, absolutely, show up at 5 o'clock on Thursday, September, whatever, and I'll have work for you to do. They could just include that email. Let's say you wanted to go to, I don't know, trying to think of something that would have a program, like a baccalaureate or something like that. I don't know if that's a thing in the South or not, but is baccalaureate a thing? Okay. No, I don't know. Baccalaureate is like a Christian spin of it's like a graduation, but with Jesus. And it's like usually held in a church or something like that. In the North, this is a thing. So like a school, before graduation, the week of graduation, we would hold something called baccalaureate, and it would be at a local church. And, all of the graduates who are going to graduate, we would say a prayer for them and things like that. If you wanted to attend a baccalaureate to see what it's like, shadow the administrator who's giving the speech or something like that, maybe you would just include a scan of the program from baccalaureate. Or maybe it's a concert, or maybe it's an agenda if you go to a conference and you have the conference program or something like that. Maybe it's just a copy of the conference program. I'm not really picky on artifacts, I'm not. If it's just something that shows you did what you said you did. Remember, you describe your artifact. When I click on this, there will be a description of what you did. So, for example, I showed you, let's go to Phoebe's. Remember, Phoebe was a teacher leader. Let's go to Phoebe's artifact here. Maybe not. I don't like Phoebe's. Let's go to Leggett. Yeah, so remember, I want a description of every one of those artifacts. So she tells me what it is. Here's the artifact I'm going to see. So she explains to me what it is. And then she uploads it. Here's the artifact. So here's the standard. Here's the artifact I'm going to see. Here's her reflection. In Jessica's, here's the standard. Here's the artifacts. She tells me what I'm going to see. Here they're included, and here's her reflection. So minimum, here she's got 2 artifacts, that's fine.
So pictures, do pictures.
Pictures are fine, yep. Here you see a PDF. So she says that, all right, so standard B4 is that a leader takes measures to actively involve families in the education of their children. Here she says, the Dollywood artifact is a selfie tweet from my participation on a field trip. TVA, these are notes from a meeting with my local agency's Latino outreach team. So here we see her picture with a selfie on a field trip. Here we see her notes from the TVA Latino outreach team. Again, this is not, is it the best artifact? Probably not, but is it the only one she could get? Probably. And then we see her reflection following that format. Here's what I did, here's what I would do differently, here's what I learned about it. Simple. Yep.
Sorry, so another question. So for this, we only need artifacts for what we are putting on our portfolio, correct? So like if I do go to board meetings, but that's not going to be a part of my portfolio, I don't need to gather artifacts for
Right.
it. Is that
Right.
okay?
You
But I
don't
can
need,
still put it on my field experience form.
right, you don't need an artifact for everything in your field experience log. Because you may not include everything from your field experience log in your portfolio. But for everything you include in your portfolio, you must have a minimum of 1 artifact for every indicator. You must have a minimum of 1 reflection for every indicator. Okay. I mentioned also, for those of you who are, I showed you the mentor evaluations, but I also mentioned that you must show a passing score on the SLA. That's the leadership assessment, sorry. Here you see Amanda's, you'll get a printout similar to this. We study for the SLA in our practicum class in your second fall. You take the SLA typically in February. You pass the SLA. It used to be a score of 160 or better. Now I think it's 151 or better. They changed the test a little bit. Here you see Amanda, she's always an overachiever. A 191 out of 200 is pretty good. So that's included in there as well. So in your portfolio, start adding artifacts now. Start adding artifact reflections now. Start working on your field experience log now. Start doing that now. Now, in order to past checkpoint 1, remember I said, well, first of all, are there any questions on the portfolio? Your big ticket out of the program? Yes.
As far as the portfolio and the hours is just ongoing. It's not every semester, it's a specific hour that needs to be completed. Is
Correct.
that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Your portfolio is your final ticket out of the program, and when it's done, it's done. When you get it to me, I'll take up to a month to grade it, and then I'll give it back to you. How am I going to score it, you ask? Great question. Let me show you. I'm going back to the school leadership organization, and thank you to those who have joined us during class. I wish I could say I was done with program orientation. I'm not. If you want to take another 15 minutes or 20 minutes to relax, I apologize. But it's very important that we go over this very fully. And this class is a little bit slow, so that's why it's taking a little bit longer. So it is what it is. It's differentiation, I guess. Yeah, different master differentiator. What's an update on the Badger score? Anyone?
35-60.
35? Sweet baby Jesus, that is so good. All right. I was gonna wear my Wisconsin Badger polo, and then I was like, for program orientation, this is gonna be recorded. I should probably wear the UTC shirt. All right. So you're asking, well, geez, how is this going to be evaluated? All right, let me show you. Under portfolio information, you will see 2 different rubrics. One is a 300-point rubric, one is a 450-point rubric. I'm going to continue with the TILs, that's the principal licensure one. Here is the rubric I am going to use when I score your portfolio. This will be scored if you're in the practicum class for principal licensure folks. You get this grade in your practicum class. If you are a teacher leader, you'll get yours in your capstone class. All right, so remember there's like TILs A, indicator 1, indicator 2, indicator 3, right? For every TILs indicator, they are all formatted the same in the rubric. Here's the indicator. I say what the indicator is, and then notice it says field experience. Then I say the indicator again. Here's what the definition of the indicator is. Then I say artifact. Then I list the indicator again, state what it is, and then I say reflection. All for A1, I had field experience, artifact, reflection. Then I go on to A2, field experience, artifact, reflection. That's going to go all the way through D4. Field experience, artifact, reflection. To get a 5 on the field experience, it says, the standard is represented in the field experience log and the final mentor evaluation. The final mentor evaluation score on the standard is at a 4 or 5 point level. So, to get a 5 on A1 field experience, you will have A1 indicated on your field experience log. You will have A1 indicated in your final mentor evaluation, and it will be scored at a 4 or 5 point level in that evaluation. To get a 4 on this, which is the beginning level, the standard is represented in your field experience log and your final mentor evaluation, but on the final mentor evaluation, you scored a 3 on it instead of a 4 or 5. Remember I said on that final mentor evaluation, you have to score at least a 3 for it to count? Okay, so if it scores a 3, you get a 4 on my rubric. Notice that it goes from 4 points possible to 0 points possible, because you did not score at a 3 point or above level. And guess what it says then? The electronic portfolio is not acceptable and must be resubmitted. Yep, This last year in in April, I got a submission from someone who was slated to graduate in May. She sent me the link to her portfolio. I graded her portfolio, and in I think 3 or so of the indicators, this is why it takes me a month, by the way. I go through every one of those things. Okay, let's find it in her field experience log. There it is, okay. Then I go, okay, let's find it in her mentor evaluation. There it is, okay. All right, what's it scored at? And it was scored at a 2. And my heart went ka-thump, 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 ka-thump. Scored at a 2 doesn't pass. So here's a student who went through 2 years of the program and just scored a 2. So then what do I need to do? Well, I need to call that student's mentor, and I need to say, okay, just a reminder that in order for this student to pass, she needs to score at a 3 or better. First of all, when I meet with you and your mentor in the fall, I usually don't in the first year. I should, maybe I will with you guys, but like right now I'm meeting with all of the second year students and their mentors. It's like all I did this last week was meet with students and their mentors. I meet with you and your mentor either in person or online, it doesn't matter. And I make sure that your mentor understands the importance of evaluating you on that mentor evaluation. I make sure they understand that you need to score a 3 or a better. But I also say to them, you don't do this student any favors if you score them at a 3, but they're not there yet. All you do then is say that you're okay with having people be principals who aren't ready to be principals. So if you are, go ahead and do it. And of course everyone's like, well, there's no way I'd ever do that. I'm like, good. So I met with the student's mentor and said, okay, well, here's our choices. We continue the incomplete. We redesigned some new field experience for this student so that she can show that she's proficient in this at a level 3 or above. We could get a new mentor if we needed to and design some, there's a lot of things we could do. We ended up making some adjustments, some additional field experience in that last month. So, the question is to the mentor, what would you need to see for this student to get a 3 or above? What do you think is missing, okay? What do you think she needs to do or he needs to do in this last month to prove to you that they can get that 3 or better? Well, I would really like them to do boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's do it. We spell it all out in a little mini contract, and then that student did it and got it done by May and graduated. But that's why we have to get it a month in advance. Otherwise, none of that could take place. So that's another reason. So that was the field experience. It's in the log at least a 3 or better. The artifact. This is pretty simple. To get the full 2 points, it's represented in the electronic portfolio with an artifact that provides clear evidence of proficiency in the standard. A caption is provided for the artifact. Remember I showed you where you just tell me what I'm going to be looking at? That's a caption. To get a 1 point, it's represented in an electronic portfolio with an artifact. However, the artifact provides minimal evidence of the proficiency or a caption might be missing. But you still get the point, it doesn't need to be resubmitted. However, if the standard is not represented in the electronic portfolio with an artifact, or the artifact does not provide evidence of proficiency, you get a 0 and you must resubmit. You will not graduate, you will not finish. Reflection. I'm going to jump down here so it's all on one page. If I can ever do that. It seems like reflection always crosses the page. That's kind of funny, but not. Here we got it, maybe, no? There's literally never a time where reflection doesn't cross a page. This is very disheartening. Oh well. To get your full 3 points on reflection, the reflection addresses the writing prompts and the reflection instructions. Remember I showed you those? The reflection illustrates clear ability to effectively critique work and provide suggestions for constructive practical alternatives and future improvement. To get a 2, it does all that. It illustrates minimal ability to critique the work. So rather than clear ability, it's minimal ability. But if your reflection does not illustrate a minimal ability to critique work and/or provide suggestions, you'll get a 0 on it and must be resubmitted. So I think you're beginning to see a theme. It's either, you know what, great, super, everything we want to see and more, and you get the maximum points, or it's in the middle, it's good enough. That'll do, donkey, that'll do. Or it's on the left, which is, you know what, that's not gonna cut it, you need to redo it. So that's how your portfolio is scored. Also near the bottom, I just want to show you a few little additional things at the bottom of the rubric. Here is where, remember I showed you the school levels and leadership levels? To get 20 points, activities have been recorded across all 3 building levels, elementary, middle, high, with even distribution. Okay, that doesn't happen a lot, but it could. To get 15 points, activities have been recorded across all 3 buildings, elementary, middle, high, with at least 33% of the hours at 2 levels outside of the student's practicing building level. That's what I told you was the minimum, right? 33%, 150 hours for principal folks outside of your building level. You still pass. But however, if it's not, if they've not been recorded across all 3 levels, or less than 33% of those hours are at an outside level, you do not pass. Your electronic portfolio is not acceptable and must be resubmitted. Leadership levels, the OC, the PC, and the LR that we talked about earlier. To get a 20, they've been recorded across all 3 leadership levels with at least 50% of the hours at the lead and reflect level. That's what our goal was, remember? To get 15, it's the same, but at least 40%. And guess what? If you're less than that, and you're not there, then the electronic portfolio is not acceptable and must be resubmitted. So this is where that field experience log, comes into play. I will take a look at your hours and see where they are. And then finally, there's just points for organization that I can read through it. It's not cumbersome, whatever. You're not missing things, etc. I can't not open files and things like that. Yep.
So my question is, if I've seen on these that the required hours, people are going far beyond those.
Yep.
So if those lead hours, the percentage is off because they have so many extra hours, does that mean that they should not include those field
No,
experience?
still include them. Yeah.
Even though it throws
Yeah.
off the percentage?
I'll look at it in relation to the requirement,
Okay.
not in relation to what you did. Yep, good question. Okay, so now you know, you've started your portfolio and you know how it will be scored. So the last 2 things we need to do are talk about your mentor authorization and then project guide. And then we'll start class. So, right around 4:30, we'll start class. Perfect. Okay. Oh, your program of study, we need to do that too. All right. First, let's talk about mentor. You are required to have a mentor as soon as humanly possible. I want to go to the, here's the school leadership organization. If you go under mentor handbook and all mentor forms. Your job right now is to select a mentor who you feel will be someone who can guide you and help you to grow as a school leader. If you are getting your principal's license, this must be a person who has their principal's license in the state of Tennessee. That license is either indicated by ILL-B or ILL-P. Those stand for Instructional Leader License Beginner or Instructional Leader License Professional. When you graduate, you will apply for your ILLB, your beginning license. Please note that an ILLA does not count as a mentor. That's someone who's getting their apprentice license. So I mentioned, for example, Elizabeth Renaison, who's an assistant principal at Howard. She has an ILLA right now. She has an apprentice license. She's in our program right now, yet she's a practicing administrator. It's kind of like the job embedded teacher thing for principals. You're on the job training of sorts. But an on the job training principal cannot your mentor be. They must be someone with the ILLB, he said in iambic pentameter. Okay. You will supply your mentor with the mentor handbook. This form, the mentor information and authorization form, is one that you must submit as soon as humanly possible. On this form, you are going to write out your name, then your mentor's name, title, school, address, email, etc., their degrees that they have, the licenses that they have, and I even put in here again, they must have the ILLB or ILLP. They must sign it. If your mentor is not your building principal, have your building principal sign it. So if you have an assistant principal mentoring you, make sure your principal knows that. Have your principal sign it and date it and turn it in. This will be submitted in your electronic portfolio, but also in the very second form that you must upload, and it says upload semester 1 in that organization, is your mentor information and authorization. This should be done, I think I say a deadline of October 5. You should have this now. Now is when you should find your mentor. Now, almost always it works perfectly for you to select your own mentor. Why? Because you know who you're comfortable with. It's almost always your principal in your school, but it doesn't have to be. If you're a teacher leader person, they do not have to have the principal's license. So you can select a team leader or a department head, or maybe it's someone at the district level. Maybe it's an instructional coach that you want to have be your mentor. You approach them and ask them if they're willing to do that. You can print them out the mentor handbook and supply them with that. Give them the mentor information and authorization form, have them fill it out and sign it, get their principal to sign it, and you submit it. And then you have it. That is how you get a mentor authorized. Last year, for the very first time at UTC, to my knowledge, we were audited by the state of Tennessee. They said, you know what, we're going to audit your program to make sure that all of your mentors were appropriately licensed. And my heart went thump, oh my gosh. Okay, well, if people are doing what I said they should be doing, this will all work out splendidly. And you know what, we went through and it was the graduates from the preceding year, every single one had their license up to date in the Tennessee Compass system. And we were able to put their license number down, submit it to the state, and I clicked my heels together and was very happy. So, pick a mentor who you think will be a good guide to you, who you can learn from, who you think you can work with, who also you think is willing to share leadership opportunities. Don't pick a mentor who's very controlling and not wanting to share. You don't want to be a leader who doesn't get to practice things. You want to get in there and get your fingernails dirty now, right? I mean, now's the time to do it. It's safe now. If you mess something up, oh well, right? But when you become an actual principal and you mess something up, not so good. That's when the crap floats up, right there. Okay. Questions on mentor authorization or information? Okay. Which gets us to our final topic of the day, except for project guide, which we'll do as part of the class because everyone in 5710 can be a guide. Your program of study. By the end of this semester, you must submit your program of study to the graduate school. Your program of study is a contract of sorts. between you and the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. We will outline, and you will say, I promise to take the following courses at the following times. I will sign it and say, if this student does this, we should give him this degree. I will submit it to the graduate school. The graduate school dean or associate dean will sign it, and it will say, if you do what you said you would do, we will confer upon you this degree. However, if you don't, we will not confer upon you this degree. So, I tell you that information here. This is a contract that will lead to your graduation. See the UTC Learn Program of Study form. We'll see you later. And you must get it to me to be signed. This has to be done this semester. If we go to the school leadership organization, program of study forms. This is usually pretty simple. Here is, first of all, the program sequence. If you click on that, you can see when every course is offered and the suggested sequence of courses. So if you're getting your master's in teacher leadership, here is the program that we expect you to take. If you're doing principal licensure, here's the program. The EDS or the certificate, here's the program. If you click on the program of study form, you will see one that's pre-populated. You just simply need to put in the dates. So here, for example, is a POS for principal licensure. Notice it's already populated with all of the courses you need to take. You just need to put in your name, a few other things here, and over here you put in the semester by which you plan to graduate. So I'm going to put this, by which you plan to take it. So if you reference that program sequence form that I just showed you, you can go through and put in the appropriate semester. So for example, 5710, you would put in FA 19, not AF, sorry. FA stands for fall of 19. And that's a 9. 5730, most of you took this morning. You would put in FA 19. Make sense? Let's go back to that program sequence document. Did I not leave that up? I didn't. Sorry. Course sequence. I'm going to download that so I can go to it more easily. Here's that course sequence document that I told you about. So you know that if you're in this program next semester, if you're in principal licensure, you're going to take EDAS 5750 and EDAS, this is actually going to be EDUC, they're cross-listed, EDUC 5010. So you go back to your program of study, which is somewhere. Sorry, I don't know where it went.
I think it's the other word document. Maybe not.
All right, well, so be it. We'll fight it. Actually, I think it was up here. There it is. Here, you're going to take 5750, Leadership for Instruction and Assessment, and you're going to put SP, Spring of 20. I said you're going to take 5010. Here it says EDAS or EDUC 5010, Methods of Educational Research. You're going to take that in the spring of 20. And you just go through, you refer to that course sequence and put in the projected dates and everything. You sign it and date it, put your name, signature, date, give it to me. I put in my name here and here, signature here and here, date here and here, turn it into the graduate school signs it, either the dean or the associate dean, and it gets submitted. You will get an email back with an approved program of study, and this is your contract for graduation. If you do this like you said you would, you will graduate. This needs to be submitted by the end of this semester. Yes, question?
What do you put in for summer one and summer two? How does it look?
SU, and then the, whatever year it is. It would either be SU 20 or SU 21. For all of you, I think it's SU 20. SU 20. FA is fall, SP is spring, SU is summer. And then the year, and it's the year in which the course is taken, calendar year. Yep. So that's the program of study. Everyone should have one filled out. If you're in a school leadership program, filled out and approved. I would start working on it now. You can email it to me anytime that it's done. Once you get it approved by the graduate school, guess what I'm going to want you to do? I'm going to want you to go right back in to the school leadership organization, and the very first thing that you have to upload there is actually I'm going to change the order of that. The very second thing you upload is your program of study form that's approved. So your mentor information you're going to upload right away. Your program of study you'll upload by December. It should get approved by then. And your mentor evaluation 1 should be uploaded as well by December. That is everything you need to do by December if you're in a school leadership program. Thus concludeth program orientation.